The Mystery of BELICENA VILLCA. Fifth Book. Epilogue, or Prologue. Chapter 8. 8:30 in the morning. I was in the kitchen of the property of Cirillo's, having breakfast with Uncle Kurt, and the Commissar Maidane. I remembered with sadness that in such ambience, I had seen my parents together for last time, hindmost image of a reality that would be repeated anymore. As a product of the journey that I undertook that morning, my parents now were in the next room, inside of huge coffins. The remembrance hurted me, but according to Uncle Kurt, that was the weakness. The Hyperborean initiates, the SS Knights, he told me in Santa Maria, could not have a family, and much less love it. That would be to convert them, in target of the enemy, expose them, to secure destruction, and, what was worst, it would be our weak point. In the time, I underestimated his advices, but now, I comprehended fatally how much truth existed in his words. For that reason he insisted too much. He, who knew the enemy also knew, as I know it now, that none advisor was enough, to be prevented against them. He had prided himself for 35 years to see his sister regularly to protect her, and would be me, the son, who would send her recklessly to the executioner. It was as to go mad. But, I could not lose my mind. About the death of my family, I had certain responsibility for the committed negligence. But, I should not forget that the target objectives had been executed by the enemy. We were, then, in a war. And in the strategy at that war, I had to comply with a mission. After the breakfast, Maidane would pass a moment through the police leadership, in Saltac, and then, he would go to rest. He had promised to come back at the 18 hours, for the inhumation. However, he hurried a definition in the act about his held offering. For him, the time could not be wasted, because each minute that elapsed was an advantage that the killers took in their escape tactic. Now, he suggested, if I didn't want to catch the material killers, but I wanted to smite the instigators, then, we could talk in another occasion less dramatic, because, I assured that his nationalist group would also help me. It had not been necessary to wait, I had already taken a decision. Commissar Maidane, would you be so gentle to wait just 30 minutes more, and not take bad, that I talk with Mr. Sanguedos alone? I asked. I have none inconvenience, he said with trust. Then, while Uncle Kurt was going to the stairs, he approached to my ear and added, deliberating calm, but don't believe that I am stupid. I have seen attentively, and I would swear, that he is not Italian. Perhaps he is German, or of some Nordic country. And perhaps, he is your relative, or one of those Nazi heroes, that search for Jews to liquidate. Perhaps, he is the objective of the cult of the Asian killers, a contract of the Mossad, why not? I walked away without hearing anything else. It resulted very difficult to treat with Maidane. He was intelligent, instructed, he had intuition, but he persisted in the erroneous attitude to include all the facts in a superficial political concept. He should not think more in himself, but in the speech that he would give him to Uncle Kurt. We gathered in my room, place saturated at painful remembrances. Uncle Kurt leaned in his bedroom, and I occupied the chair. Before he achieved to emit the first word, he made me remind his opposition. But, I was prepared for his reaction, because since days ago that I had comprehended why Tarstein qualified him as obstinated. I imagine what you are going to tell me, Nif. Since the policeman Maidane appeared, and you gave credit to the incredible idea about the humanity of Baron Bishar, I have come fearing to hear your plan. And do you know why? Because I imagine it. But don't worry. I'll hear your plan beforehand, a principle from which I will not move no matter what happens. The immortals cannot die. It is obvious, the immortals cannot die, and Uncle Kurt, standing there stubbornly upon that principle, would never coincide with my plan. Neither, with his better goodwill. But, as I anticipated, I was prepared for his reaction, and I had already found the way in which the future don't remain free to its goodwill. I admired Uncle Kurt, but I didn't believe him very capable as to wait another 35 years, before to undertake an action. I released my speech. My dear Uncle Kurt, we're in front two perspectives, and to be able to move, one of them must prevail over the other. However, none of us will yield in our position, and it is not convenient for us to do so. You, because, even if you're obstinate for the rest, you possess powers that nobody has, and an initiatic knowledge that must be respected. Me, because, tautology can be right or can be wrong, no one knows, neither you. For some reason I was convoked now by the gods, for some reason, I received the letter of BELICENA VILLCA, for some reason, I am a von Sabema, for some reason, I suffer this pain, the attack of the demons against my family. For some reason, will be all these things, but they are not enough by themselves as to decide if I am right or wrong. You tend to believe that all what happens to me is for you, but I've a different idea of myself, and I think that I also exist, and that if I exist, is for something, for that something that we don't know what is, but perhaps, to be right in my plan. What would suppose that I will be also right in my plan? What would mean that I will also right at fulfilling the request of BELICENA VILLCA, that I will find his son, the Noyo, of the wise sword? How to know which is the true? How to know it, if after what has occurred to my family, and verify that Bore and Bishwa have reincarnated to attack, I will never accept that the future steps be decided by goodwill, and that I will decide by myself neither. I'll explain you how we will know it. And forgive me, if I have to be harsh with you, Uncle Kurt. You have left settled your principle from which you will not move. Well, I will expose you mine, from which I won't move neither. I will just accept, and only accept, the will of the gods. Let them decide. Logically, I do not propose a proof of God, an ordeal, to find out the will of the gods. Because, if there's something in what I am disposed to trust, and it is in your honor, in the honor of your eternal spirit. And you can talk with the gods through the faculty of scrotal, although I am sure that for obstinate you never employed it, since the Third Reich fell. Well, talk with gods, with Captain Kiev, and consult about our future, ask concretely which of the steps that we must make. Whatever be answer that they offer to you, I will accept it. And I will accept it from you. I will believe what you will tell me. In reality, in what I trusted was in that the honor of Uncle Kurt would prevent him to deceive me. And if, after all, he deceived me, there, the Führer, who communicated him the scrotal, would be in charge of it. More than to persuade him by the eloquence, with my speech, I wanted to put Uncle Kurt in a dialectic trap that would obey him to opt between to carry out the attack of the demons, or betray the strategy at the Führer. That, if my plan was correct, I would never know it. Logically, I was so sure that my plan was as good as him, that the conversation with the Commissar Maidane had deranged my reason. By the moment, Uncle Kurt went silent. I took him out of the absorption, because I needed to count with his approval before explaining the plan. To not fail, I came to the rescue, to a smite of dramatic effect. What are you saying, Uncle Kurt? Will you talk with Captain Kiev, and receive his message? Do you want me to beg you? It doesn't a shame to beg you. Do it for me. Remember that, when I went to Santa Maria, and you almost killed me, with the Dox Davis, you assured that, if I'd have died you would have committed suicide. What can be worse than that? Or what occurred to us later, when the demons exterminated our lineage? Yes, Uncle Kurt, I beg you. For one time in your life, relax a little your stubbornness. Wait a moment, he interrupted me, that is not for too much. You mustn't exaggerate. Your proposition seems fair to me, and I accept it in good grade. I will make use of the scrotal again, that certainly I never used since the Second War, and I will procure to inquire the will of the gods. It's just that it is difficult to me to conceive the utility of your plan, because the immortals cannot die. But perhaps, you're right, overall, and that it is real to realize your insane idea. Now, can you confirm me with details what my intuition has already shown me, to dispel any doubts about what I have to consult? I had convinced him. The bird was in the bag. The goat had fallen in the lasso. I shuddered with happiness, but I not made any gesture that revealed my anemic state, which was comparable to the one of Cicerone, when he convinced the Senate that Rome had to fight with Carthage. If he captured my thoughts, it was something that I could not prevent, but I would try that nothing could offend him. Although he didn't lose the opportunity to signalize me that my plan could only proceed from a madman. Strategically, I explained, my plan was based in the principle of the two realities that I mentioned before. To be clearer, I affirmed that the demons, to attack us, have decided to descend to the plane of the human reality, and that have turned them vulnerable in such plan. It is not too much. But what else can we ask for? The Hyperborean wisdom teaches that the nature of fear is essentially animal. It means anemic, human, own of the immortal soul. Contrarily, the eternal spirit is pure courage. It doesn't know the fear, which is essentially strange to it. Well, now, Bray and Bishar are two immortal souls highly evolved, but the nature of fear is not strange to them. On the contrary, they must be capable to feel fear, and a lot. When they be surpassed by the force. That is because, as every anemic essence, they only understand one language, the one of the force. Of course, they conscious about their own force, and, for that reason they don't fear an enemy that they know that is inferior in force, as the spirits chained to matter are, as the spiritual men are. For that, they are right to not fear men, if they are supermen. And it is true that it represents a madness to try to attack Bray and Bishar out from the plane of the human reality. But now, the case is different, because they have situated themselves in the plane of the human reality, becoming momentarily human beings, offering a weak point in their strategy. Now, we can attack them in their human weakness as they attacked us. What would we gain if, as you say, finally the immortals cannot die? Seen it thus, as you resolve it, it means from the principles, in case to take them away their human lives, we would just achieve to disincarnate their immortal souls. This is, we would not achieve anything. But, I think that it is not thus, as has to be responded to the problem, because of clinging to a unique principle other principles are left away, as important as that of the immortality of the soul, that even if they are considered, can give us relative strategic advantage. Concretely, I am referring to the principle of fear, already exposed, and the avalanche effect. That has place in the terrifying territory, it means, the panic. As professional of the psychic phenomenons, I know very well that the sensation of fear grows, following an exponential curve, which is inverse to the VILLCA curve. In a determined point, both curves crosses and then, the fear dominates the will, or what is the same, the will is debilitated before the instinctive force, and overcomes the panic, during which the anemic remains out from the rational control, it becomes rational. My theory is the next. Normally, we would not have enough forces to attack the immortal souls of Bray and Bishar, and cause them fear, to put them to flee. Abnormally, they have situated themselves in the plane of the human reality, they have incarnated in human beings, they have become priests. Diabolic priests, but human beings at last, with their limited vision by the reason, and for the instinct of fear. Against human beings, no matter how diabolic they are, we have weapons to fight, and enough force to cause them a great fear. Such fear that will turn in terror. Such terror that will break their satanic pride, their magical security, that they cannot be defeated by human beings, and infuse them panic. Such panic that will leave the immortal souls of Bray and Bishar instantly out of control. As in an avalanche, a small initial force will be amplified in a great final force. As in a cosmic panic, a small initial fear, human, will be amplified in a great final terror, at the level of the immortal souls. You know what time is, Kurt? Mere illusion. the only reality of time, in the plane of the creator of time, is the beginning and end of the time, which are identical. And you know it's the security for the magician, the source of power. The magician can't doubt not even one time, because his magical power is cut. The magician must always believes that he is powerful, more powerful each time. That is the satanic pride. Just one instant of doubt, and such belief will remain broken. Broken the satanic pride, lost the evolution reached, due to the consequent metaphysical fall. And according to my theory, if we achieve that instant of panic in Beret and Bishar, that will be equivalent to their own magical destruction, and their arithmetic remission to the beginning of time, due to the loss of instantaneous evolution. I don't know if two immortal souls evolved, as Beret and Brisha, would achieve to return from such situation of total involution. But, if we accept the Hyperborean wisdom, it must be remembered that, it teaches that as the beginning of time, as the end, is found in the Mahapralaya, the not manifestation, or the final death of all the anemic. In the beginning of time, Beret and Bishar would have two paths. 1. Stay out from the time, and sink into the Mahapralaya. And 2. Enter in time, forced to recover their evolution lost, in the time, that is to say, manifesting themselves monadically, into the elemental worlds and then evolving towards the archetypal final perfection for eons, reaching the mineral realms, animal, and human, successively, in rounds of planetary chains, into manvantaras and kalpas. Conclusion of my theory. They will not be able to attack us again. To take to practice this theory, is possible through a plan, that I will explain you now. It is very simple, and I will start to define its objective. To kill the Asian assassins, it means, to the priests Beret and Bishar, in the course of an operation command. To reach this objective it is necessary, to comply with 4 conditions. I will name them, and then, I will tell you, how they be fulfilled. First, to dispose of blunt weapons of short range. Second, localize the killers. Third, approach to them, the enough as to assure the shooting. And fourth, to count with the surprise factor. The first condition, I think, I can fulfill it with the aid of the Commissar Maidane, to whom, I consider since now, and even if you will not agree with my criterion, as an envoy of the gods. Of course, an envoy unconscious of his mission. The second, doesn't require any investigation, because, we both agree in that, from here, they left towards the ranch of BELICENA VILLCA. There we will catch them. And where, anyway, we must go. I just ask you to confirm, our presumption in your consult with Captain Kiev. The third depends of you, of your ability to control, and direct the Dox Davis. I count with them, that with the jumps Vadi Lung, will let us reach the adequate distance to not miss the shoots on the killers. The fourth, naturally, depends from the third and also of you, of how you construct the mental orders with the Kikos Vadi, that the Dox Davis will obey. It is logic that, if in those orders, you just mention, to Beret and Bishar, they will detect you, as to me, and they will put on advise. The surprise factor demands, then, to not refer the dogs to Beret and Brisha. How we approach then? It must be discarded the possibility to direct the Dox Davis, directly into the ranch of BELICENA VILLCA, because, we run the risk to not coincide in the right moment, that's to say, when both be inside of the house. We mustn't forget that, such a moment passed already, that the killer have been already in the ranch, and that, the cans, will jump not only in the space but in the time, returning in time to the precise moment. How we will do then, to approach to them surprisingly. Referring the Dox Davis, to the car of the killers, to the black car empty, and situated in the ranch. This, can be obtained in many steps. The first of them, consists in to make that the Dox Davis, identify right here, in Cerulose, the trace of the black car. In that way, they will possess in abstratus, the idea, or name, of the black car, a priori to the final order. And the final order, will be a precise mathematical construction that will implant the idea, or encrypted name, from the black car, in the context of the ranch. We must think to resolve the problem, Uncle Kurt. But, I am sure that there will be no insurmountable difficulties, because the yantra is extremely versatile to construct every type of orders, even the most complex.